If you're watching this on November 30th, 2022, then you may have been surprised by the simultaneous announcement and release of the Loupedeck Live S. Now, we talked about Loupedeck in the past. We use the Loupedeck CT for post-production work and video editing here at Gaming Trend. We also use the Loupedeck Live as part of our streaming package. Well, what if we took those two devices and we smashed them together? That's precisely what the Loupedeck team has done with the Live S, and I'm very excited to show it to you today. I'm Ron Burke, Editor-in-Chief for GamingTrend.com. Let's unbox the Loupedeck Live S and see what's inside. Taking a look inside the box, we obviously have a quick start guide, safety and warranty information, and compliance information. One very amply lengthed cord here, using my pet peeve, single-use twist ties. But this thing's got some length. Looks like it might actually be a 6-foot cord. USB-C on both sides, thank you very much. They used that on the last Loupedeck system, so that's not a big surprise. But the 90-degree angle one and the straight one, and an included adapter should you need to pop it back to USB-A. So that's a nice inclusion. Thank you very much for that. Obviously the Loupedeck itself and a kickstand is included. So this pops onto these little holes here and kind of goes over the top of the device like so. As I fumble with it here, let me try and do that again. There we go. Now I don't need this anymore because it can stand on its own. So let's do the most important part. I'm going to take that stand off, and then we're going to take this plastic off. Other than some specialty consoles, this is pretty much the Loupedeck lineup. Now I've included a Stream Deck here for some comparison later, but let's start over here. This is the Loupedeck CT. Now I mentioned that just a minute ago. I'm going to use this device to edit, well, this video. You'll notice the large jog wheel. It has 2 buttons that can be programmed top and bottom of that jog wheel. It has 12 independent buttons here that are also screens, and these 2 vertical slice screens that can also be programmed. They're directly tied to, well, 6 analog knobs that can also be buttons, and, well, just more buttons. This thing is a little bit complex to learn, but it is incredibly powerful as well. It's invaluable for speed editing, and I just can't see getting through this work without this. But it's way overkill for streaming. That's where this device comes in. Seeing them side by side, it's very clear that the Live and the Live S have both inherited traits from the Loupedeck CT. Now, the Loupedeck CT had these great 6 analog knobs that are also buttons, and those have made their way to the Live. They also use the same 12:2 screen layout for the touch screens, and it picks up this array of buttons and locates them down at the bottom. Now, moving over to the Live S, we see a number of changes. We've slimmed down from 6 down to 2 analog buttons, and these are now kind of a rubber coated so they don't slip in the same way that these smooth plastic ones did. We see this number of physical buttons slimmed down to just 4, but we see an expansion of the screen all the way up to 15. Now at this point, I don't have much choice but to compare it directly against a competitor. Looking at the Stream Deck, the first issue is this one. It's hardwired. So if there's an issue with this cable, if it frays in any way, I have to replace the entire device. I can't simply swap it. The Loupedeck, going all the way back to the CT, and probably beyond that, is USB-C. So I can use whatever cable length I need, and if there's an issue with the cable, I can simply swap it. So point goes to the entirety of the Loupedeck line on this one. The next thing on the Stream Deck is these buttons. So these buttons are basically a viewfinder, if you will. They're a acrylic or plastic viewer over the top of the screen. And you can press them and they feel great. They've got like a rubber grommet in there so they feel like there's actually some meatiness to them. I like it. But it does mean that there's no haptic feedback whatsoever. The Loupedeck line has haptic feedback. So when I touch these buttons, I know that they've actuated because I get a response back from it. So in that way, point again goes to the entirety of the Loupedeck line. The next thing is really just kind of the nature of the Stream Deck itself. These are great, don't get me wrong, I'm not bad-mouthing them at all, but they have a specific function, and it's limited. It's on or it's off. So I can certainly start or stop a stream. I can really go out of my way to make like volume up and volume down, but you're pretty much stuck with this as a launcher. It's going to launch whatever thing you want it to do, and it's going to change something from one state to another. It's not really going to give you fine-grained control over anything like volume. That's where really any of these devices are fantastic. The Live S has these two knobs, which thankfully they've upgraded. The Live CT and the Live both had these hard plastic buttons with a little bit of a grip to them. Now they've moved to a rubber coated knob so you can actually get a good grip on that and you're not going to accidentally slip off of it. But having these two knobs that are also buttons, again, allows me to control both my voice and also my headset so I can keep the balance exactly the way I want, or I can actuate really anything else that has an analog input. So if you want to slowly fade in lights or slowly fade in music or whatever that is, you now have that kind of control that you really don't have kind of chunking it one button at a time. The other major change from the Live to the Live S is the number of touch screens. So this had the 12x2 that we've mentioned before. We've moved to 15. Now that's obviously a direct comparator to the Stream Deck, which also has 15. But again, like I mentioned, these are just as programmable as these, but with haptic feedback, I'm certainly going to prefer this more. Now I'm recording this in early November, so I'm going to take the next month and really compare the Loupedeck Live S and the Stream Deck. To a lesser degree, I'm also going to compare the Live S versus the Live. How much am I going to miss the extra analogs and buttons? Is the change from 12x2 to 15 going to make that much of a difference? I guess we'll find out. There is one area that the Stream Deck does stand above the rest. It has a very robust software package and a very strong community. Now, Loupedeck has made a lot of strides in this area, so I'm eager to see if there's really a more direct comparison between those two now. So for you, it's just going to be a montage and a screen wipe. For me, it's going to be about a month. I'll be right back.
4 to 6 weeks later.
So here we are a month later, and I've been using the Loupedeck Live S as my daily driver. I use it for things like Zoom calls and meetings, and to a lesser extent, DaVinci Resolve. I even use it for Discord. I play games with it, games like F1 and Star Citizen and Microsoft Flight Simulator. So, what's the verdict? Well, I expect that I would actually miss the additional knobs and buttons that are present on the Live versus the Live S, but in fact I didn't. I appreciated the extra screen real estate. My only complaints are twofold. One, it continues to carry a single 1-year warranty. I wish it was a little bit longer than that. And two, comes down to software. The entire Loupedeck line uses a unified software package that allows you to map every single button, knob, and screen on all of these devices. Where it's lacking is that almost the same profiles that were present when I reviewed this unit are now still present for this unit. I really believe in my heart of hearts that if the team at Loupedeck sat down and created profiles for some of the biggest and best games, instead of having to rely on third parties, this thing would fly off the shelves. Now granted, everything that you configure on these devices is done via a drag and drop. It's incredibly simple, and you can always buy icon packs from a myriad of places all around the internet. But if the team at Loupedeck sat down and did that for us, so it was a single click install, I think you'd have a top shelf device here. At the end of the day, you can do it yourself, but why do it yourself when you can have somebody else do it for you? Now, I did save the best part for last, but to really get into it, I have to talk about a competitor. Sorry, Loupedeck team. There is another device that's coming out at the same time as the Live S, and that's the Elgato Stream Deck Plus. Now, that device has 8 of those candy buttons, as well as a long display stripe that's a touchscreen, not unlike this one. Underneath that are 4 analog knobs. Now, that device is retailing, at least at the time of recording, at $229. I did see it on sale for $199 on Black Friday. Comparatively, the Loupedeck Live S has 15 buttons that are touchscreens. Also, I can still swipe between them, so I have a near infinite amount of screens that I can have at my fingertips. Throw in the fact that it's a significantly lower price, and it makes it a really easy one to recommend. Let me know down in the comments, do you use some sort of Stream Deck like this, at least for productivity or for gaming? I'd like to hear from you. I'm Ron Burke, Editor-in-Chief for GamingTrend.com. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you again very soon.